today's new tutorial video on Raster Vector. I'm Kayode Leke, and if you're new on this channel or you're just watching one of my tutorials for the first time, I'll implore you to subscribe to this channel because at least 2 to 3 videos are being posted here every week to teach you and to expand your knowledge on designs at large, basically graphic designs, web design, digital marketing like social media advertisements and the likes, Google ads. So a lot of videos is being posted on this platform to teach you and to help you to grow. So click the subscribe button so I can get notification of when the next video will be uploaded, and also like and share with your friends. So today we'll be talking about raster images, raster and vector images. So basically, vector and raster graphics are graphics that you cannot do without. And as a graphic designer, you need to understand and have a proper knowledge of how this affects your design. So however, if you are a beginner, this may be something that you don't understand or are not aware of. When I started graphic designs, I basically didn't know anything about raster or vector. I didn't even know if there was any difference in any of them. I just started off with CorelDRAW. Then after a while I moved to Photoshop, and I didn't know that, man, these two packages were completely different from each other. How they work, how they export, and the kind of printing, the kind of output they give, it determines what you use them for. So I didn't understand all these important stuffs until when I started taking few courses here and there. So now raster and vector images are graphical objects. Basically, we know that raster and vector images, every image is graphical. Just same way when we're in school that they tell you to plot a graph, blah blah blah. After plotting that graph, you get images. Is like the way in the former tutorial I did for you, a combination of elements, graphic elements are images. So this is an example of what a raster and a vector is. So a raster, when it's been enlarged, you can see how faint it looks. Then vector, you can see that it's sharp. So let's go into the details. Now, raster images are used when you need to show smooth transition of colors and shades. The most common use is processing photos, create collages. Now, in a situation whereby, like a photographer, you work more with raster images because raster images are quite, they tend to show you a smooth design than vector images. They smoothen out your designs for you. So raster images take more hard disk space than the same image in vector format. Now this is very true. If you compare the same raster file with your PDF with your PNG file, you realize that it's larger, and this is because raster takes a lot of time to render. If you're working on Photoshop and you want to export a JPEG, you realize that it will take more time to export than if you're exporting a PNG. So at the end of this, I will explain a lot of things to you about PNG and JPEG files. Now, this, like I've told you in the previous videos on elements of graphic design, basics of graphic design, raster images are what you get when you design with Photoshop. So the peculiarity of the raster image is that it consists of small pieces like a mosaic. These pieces are pixels. Now, a combination of pixels is what forms raster images. The pixels, like we used to hear, are basically dots of colors. When you combine them together, they form images. that you want, or that you designed. So those pixels now, when they are put together in large amount of pieces, is what you that's why you hear things like 32 bits, you hear things like 24 bits, you hear things like 16 bits. That has to do with the pixel capacity. Then then dimensions of your design, you see things like 1280 pixels by 720 pixels. What that means is there are 1280 pixels across the width of that image. Then across the length of that image, there are 720 pixels. So now let's look at this example. Image with 600 by 800 pixel permission. Literally, it means the following. Your picture contains 600 pixels vertically and 800 horizontally, just like I explained with the 1280 and 720 pixels. It has to, just like when we taught length and breadth of a rectangle, the width usually comes first, then the length usually comes second. So even this needs to be corrected. It's supposed to be 800 by 600, because when you're talking of dimensions, your width comes first, then your length comes last. So raster images, the higher the resolution, the greater the number of pixels per unit area. This is one thing I usually put into consideration. Like when I design, most of my clients that I design Facebook post for, or Instagram post for, a lot of sometimes when I first started, I realized I usually use 500 by 500 pixels, and whenever I send it to my clients, when they post it on Instagram, it's usually blurry, and that was because I was using Photoshop. If I was using Illustrator or CorelDRAW or Inkscape, which are vector packages, I likely might not have had such problems. But because I was in Photoshop is a raster software, and like I told you, like it blends the pixels, it's smoothing them out. So by the time you enlarge them, you won't get the quality of what you actually design anymore. So, and Instagram has a size of 1080 by 1080 pixels. So you can see from by the time you post it on Instagram, what Instagram does is it takes that picture of 500 by 500 pixels and it expands it to 1080 by 1080 pixels. Then you have a problem like this because it's enlarging it. But take for instance, if you design a picture of 1500 by 1500 and you post it on Instagram, what does it do? Instead, it reduces the size of the picture to 1080 by 1080. So it becomes more sharp. It becomes more sharper. It becomes sharper than when you use 500 by 500. So whenever you want to do any design, it's best you take into consideration these dimensions of where the design will be fitting into. So if you are using Photoshop, it's advisable you work with the exact dimension of where the image will be fitted, or you use a dimension larger. If using a larger dimension means the size of the file will be bigger, but at the same time you will get a clearer image when you fit it into where you want to use it. So let's go quickly to the next. If you print the image on paper such as A4, you will see a mosaic. So this is what we mean by a mosaic. This enlarged path, you can see how blurry it looks. It looks faint, it doesn't look sharp. So these are the problems you have when you don't understand these things. A lot of persons tell me that they prefer to use Illustrator. Yes, it's good, it's fine. Yeah, you get vector images. You use CorelDRAW. Yes, you get vector images. But for someone like me, I'm more of an abstract designer. I love to create abstract images and abstract designs. And trust me, you can't achieve that with Illustrator or CorelDRAW. Or I won't say you can't achieve it, I will say you are limited. So I usually, that's what made me pick for Photoshop from the beginning of my design career. So when I had this knowledge of raster and vector, then I started optimizing my design dimensions. So whenever I want to design, I usually use a larger ratio. For instance, if for a design like Instagram that is 1080 by 1080 pixels, what I do is I first of all set the 1080 by 1080 pixels. Don't worry, when we go into one of the videos of Photoshop training, I will explain to you how you can actually expand the size of your designs in accordance to the ratio of the dimension of the actual um, design you want to use, where it to fit into. What I mean is, if you need an image of 1080 by 1080, that's a square. So if you want to increase the size, you have to increase the size to fit into that ratio. 1080 by 1080 is ratio 1 to 1. So when you're increasing it has to be also ratio 1 to 1. So that means you have to be increasing something like 2000 by 2000. You have to be increasing to something like 2500 by 2500, not 2500 by 1500. You're going to alter the ratio of the 1080 by 1080. So it's supposed to be a ratio 1 to 1. If it's ratio 2 to 1, you must do it ratio 2 to 1 if you're increasing or reducing. So if you okay, I think I've treated this. Okay, vector graphics are often used in printing of brochures, flyers, business cards, etc. Basically, printing press, if you go to meet them, what they use most of the time is CorelDRAW. I'll also teach you how to use CorelDRAW, because I know that a lot of persons might want to go into printing of billboards, flyers, brochures, and printing at large. So namely products that have text, logo, design, symbols, everything that does not require accurate transmission of all 18 shades of peach color and can be described by curves. Basically, what is jargon mean is vector images are used for printing. You can't print with raster. You print with vector. There was a time when I was doing a design for one of my clients, and he needed lots of printing materials. Though I was fixing Instagram and Facebook designs for them, but they also wanted materials they could print out. So I fixed some. They didn't tell me, but they didn't tell me they wanted to print them out. So I fixed them on Photoshop. By the time they wanted to print, they now told me that they couldn't use it, and I was like, you didn't tell me you wanted to print these materials out. You should have told me. I would have known the particular software to use to make life easy for you. So I had to do a redesign on CorelDRAW, and I sent them the CorelDRAW file, and the pictures came out very lovely. Even I myself, I was elated when I saw the designs. So secondly, vector deals with curves, deals with lines. In a vector, it's mathematically calculated. So everything is just like AutoCAD. If you have good understanding of AutoCAD, you realize that AutoCAD is mathematical. So even AutoCAD is also a vector software. I'll also be teaching you how to use AutoCAD very soon, very very soon. So you need to, you're going to learn a lot from this channel. So you need to stick to this channel. If you've not subscribed, I advise you subscribe now. You're going to learn a lot from this channel as a designer. A great advantage of vector images is scaling. Even if you scale, the image quality is not affected and will be in good quality, just like I've explained of raster. Raster will give you a mosaic, it won't be clear, but for vector, it's mathematically calculated. So even when you zoom in, you still get the same quality because the calculation is intact. So it's not working with pixels, it's working with mathematical calculations. So you zooming in or out does not affect the calculation. The calculation is still the same. So working with vector images for printing is best, because no matter how much this use the printer zooms or zoom in or zoom out, your design quality remains. Unlike raster image, a vector is not composed of separate dots, pixels. The logic of a vector image is quite different. Yes, I'll explain that. In vector graphics, there are so-called control points, and there are curves between them. The curvature of the curves is defined by a mathematical formula. I have explained this earlier also. So this does not mean that designers should be a guru of high mathematics and remember all kinds of formulas of hyperbolas and parabolas. This work is for the graphic editor. Basically, you don't have to be a guru in mathematics for you to be able to use graphic design, vector graphics. Basically, it's embedded in the software already. All you need to do is just to select a particular tool, maybe a line tool you want to use, and you extend the line to the particular dimension you want to use. You can even impute the length of the line, maybe in centimeters or millimeters, and you press enter and it gives you the exact length. So it makes life easy for you, so you don't need to start doing calculations just because you want to use vector designs. So in a summary of what we've learned today, raster graphics, the advantage is that the image is very clear. It subtly conveys the change flow of colors, shades, and shadows. Then the disadvantage is loss of quality when increasing the size. Image in high resolution takes a lot of space. I've explained all this before. So the application of raster images is photo editing, like the photographers creating mock-up, just like when you design a logo and you want to see how the logo looks on maybe a stationery like a cup or a t-shirt, or maybe on a wall. Then a graphical object with large range of colors. So then for vector images, the advantage is image is easy to scale. You can enlarge it to any length, to any size. It remains the same. It does not lose its quality. Disadvantage is it is impossible to convey smooth color transitions as in a raster. Yeah, in the sense that by the time you enlarge it, there is likelihood that the colors might not blend. That is the problem. Raster actually smoothens it out because it's in pixels, so every of the color shade and transition is being conveyed. But in vector, it's not so, because it's mathematically calculated, not pixels. So when we start, when I do one or two designs for you and send to you as for tutorial, you understand this much better. Printing and designing of flyers, basically printing brochures, promotional materials, business cards, logos, and the like. Yeah. So now this is a diagram showing the different file formats for vector and raster images and the packages. You can see, like I explained to you, CorelDRAW, Inkscape, Illustrator are vector softwares, and these are the stuffs you get from the file formats: PDF, SVG, EPS, AI, CDR. The CDR is CorelDRAW, AI is Illustrator. So then, and the legs. Then for the raster, you have your Photoshop, like we know, the GIF, JPEG. The truth is, we are more common. What you find most of the time are raster images. That's why you realize that you find more of JPEG format files. You find more of PNGs. You find more of GIFs. GIFs are those moving characters. You see there are some graphics that you see they move and twitch. Maybe they use for Google Ad. They are GIFs. You have TIFF. We have BMP. BMP is bitmap file format. So bitmap, some people call it bitmap, some people call it raster, whichever you like. So basically, these things are dependent on what you want. So, but as for me, whenever I design my logo on Photoshop, a lot of persons like to use vector packages like CorelDRAW and Illustrator, Inkscape for their logo, but I prefer to use Photoshop, and it's because I have my own way around it. I use large dimensions like 1005 by 1005. I increase them. When I export as PNG, not JPEG. When you export as PNG helps you to to capture only that logo and not the background. So the background will be transparent, while the particular design, which is the logo, will stand alone in that particular dimension that you choose. So but JPEG, if JPEG will definitely give it a background, either a white background or whatever the background you chose for it. So this is the end of the tutorial, and I would like you to follow me in my social platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and even YouTube, and also check my website to connect with me if you want us to work together. So I hope you enjoy this, and I would love to see you in the next video.